Hello and welcome to The Point After. I'm Nate Wimberly, joined by Jorge Andres. What a busy week in sports, from college basketball to a wild and crazy start to NFL free agency. Lots to talk about today.
Tons to talk about, Nate. We'll dive right into that massive upset in the ACC Tournament in just a minute, but first, some good football.
Yeah, what a start to free agency for the Carolina Panthers. The biggest chip to fall was the Panthers trading outside linebacker Brian Burns to the New York Giants for a second and fifth round draft pick. Burns also signed a 5-year deal worth $150 million with a $87.5 million guaranteed. He bet on himself that he could get $30 million per season, and he got it, folks. Panthers turned down a trade from the Rams that included 2 first-round picks for Burns. So that was a bad gamble for the Carolina Panthers on this first week of official gambling in North Carolina. Carolina traded cornerback Dante Jackson for wide receiver Deontay Johnson. So Carolina gets quarterback Bryce Young another weapon.
Yeah, I love all that. A lot of moves, big and bad. Outside of trading Brian Burns to the Giants, they did lose linebacker Frankie Louvu to Washington. Let's not forget Frankie led the team in tackles with 125 tackles. Now, defensive end Yetur Gross-Matos also signed with the 49ers, who had a career-high 4.5 sacks last season. And safety Jeremy Chinn, he joined Frankie in D.C. as he signed with the Commanders on a 1-year deal. Now, Chinn had 12 tackles for loss, 4 sacks and 2 touchdowns in his 4-year career with the Carolina Panthers. Chinn, however, only played in 23 games of the past 2 seasons, starting 19 of them. And in another surprise move, the Panthers also releasing Von Bell, Nate.
Hey, Burns, Louvu, and Gross-Matos led the Panthers in sacks last season. So who's going to rush the passer for the Panthers this season? Well, yesterday the team signed outside linebacker DJ Wonnum from Minnesota. It's a 2-year deal for $12.5 million. Last year, Wonnum had 8 sacks for Minnesota. One of those was against the Carolina Panthers. He also scored a touchdown on a fumble recovery versus the Panthers, so they already know what he can do for the other team. Let's hope he can do it for this team right here. Wonnum played his college ball at South Carolina, so he's one piece to the pass rush, but they got to get more. Who's going to rush the passer next year for the Carolina Panthers? Please tell me.
That's the big question to answer. That said, though, the Panthers did do a great job bringing in some talent that'll make an immediate impact. The Panthers' first move of free agency was opting to protect their franchise quarterback Bryce Young by adding former Dolphin offensive lineman Robert Hunt. His deal, a 5-year deal worth $100 million with $26.5 million in a signing bonus. Now, Carolina also added former Seattle guard Damian Lewis with a 4-year deal worth $53 million and $26.2 guaranteed. Defensively, you mentioned defensively, right?
Yes.
Defensively.
Who's going to rush the quarterback next year?
Well, they did get a veteran Cowboy defensive tackle in Ashawn Robinson. That year, that's a 3-year deal worth $22.5 million. Robinson is reunited with defensive coordinator Ivero. On the linebacking front of things, Nate, linebacker Josie Jewell from the Denver Broncos, he signed a 3-year deal worth $22.75 million, $7 million of that a bonus, and $10 million of that guaranteed. Now, Carolina, they re-signed receiver Emir Smith-Marset on a 1-year deal, and they did also agree on a 1-year deal with former Bills corner Dane Jackson. Again, a lot of movement, maybe not enough, but a lot of movement.
And
enough. No, it is not. A lot of people are saying that, but at least there was some. At least there was some movement.
Did I ask this question? Let me ask it again. Who's going to rush the quarterback next year for the Carolina Panthers?
Hey.
Your top 3 are gone.
Hopefully there's a method to the madness. And with that movement, well, Carolina naturally has to try to make sense of it all. We have to try to make sense of it all. So we're pleased to be joined by NFL Network reporter Cameron Wolfe. Cam, let's talk about that protection to Bryce Young first. Clearly, they believe in developing Icky in that left side, but give that interior line right there a lot of stability with the additions of both Hunt and Lewis. How much of a difference are those 2 frontline acquisitions going to make in not just protecting Bryce Young, but elevating this offense altogether?
I'm sitting here cracking up. You guys talking about who's going to rush the passer. That's definitely going to be an issue for Carolina this year. But you saw their new general manager, Dan Morgan, essentially decide how he wants to build this team. And he said, we're going to reallocate our resources from the defensive side of the ball to the offensive side of the ball. And our main priority is going to be to protect Bryce Young and to give him weapons. And you pay $153 million total on 2 guards is an eye-opening number, especially for that position. But it shows just how important it is for them to lock down the interior of that offensive line. We all know Bryce Young's a shorter quarterback. The biggest thing for short quarterbacks is getting pressure inside. They cannot see over the line. It disrupts their chemistry, disrupts their timing. We saw that all throughout last year for Bryce Young. And so they prioritize solidifying that left guard and that right guard spot. And so you don't have to worry about those positions for Bryce Young. They also went and got Deontay Johnson to get him a receiving weapon. So the defensive side of the ball definitely took a big drop off, but I definitely like the talent they added on the offensive side of the ball.
You mentioned weapons. You mentioned former Steelers wide receiver Deontay Johnson. The duel right now in Carolina looks to be Thielen and Johnson. But will that be enough to move the needle, given that there really isn't a true slot receiver or a tight end or even a running back that can make a difference if you look at least what we saw last year?
Yeah, they're not done. They're going to add more to this roster as far as weapons. I think one thing that came out of that Brian Burns trade, I know a lot of people will give them flack about it because they didn't maximize their value a year ago to what they could have got, but they still did get a early second-round pick in this trade, 39th overall. And so without a first-round pick, that went away in the Bryce Young deal, they'll have pick 33 and 39, 2 of the top 8 picks in the second round. This is a very deep wide receiver draft, probably one of the deepest we've seen in 10 years. And so there's certainly going to be an option for them, a starting caliber weapon there at receiver at the top of the second round. So I'd imagine that's one of their 2 picks there. And they're still going to look in the free agency market as well and see if there's any potential upgrades. So I think priority 1, 2, and 3 is to make sure Bryce Young doesn't have anything near the season he had last year.
Now, moving this forward, just like you just so eloquently did, with these moves in free agency, does Carolina now shift that focus primarily to the NFL draft, so they start selecting guys not so much necessarily on need, but more on scheme for Dave Canales?
Yeah, you want to fill your holes in free agency so you don't have to force it in the draft, especially a team like the Panthers who don't have a first-round pick. You don't know what's going to be there for you at 33 and 39. So you don't want to come into that draft with a huge gaping need of, hey, we have to get a wide receiver at this spot or we're screwed. Getting Deontay Johnson helps them at that spot. Guard, getting Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis minimizes that as a need. And then they got DJ Wanham. They also, I'm told, are signing Kaylavon Chason, linebacker, who will come in and help with pass rush. He'll be more of a depth guy. And they're still keeping their eye on Jadeveon Clowney and Chase Young, 2 other edge rushers who are doing other visits this week, but are still in the mix for Carolina. So I'd imagine you see them add 1 more pass rusher in free agency and then take their attention to the draft and try to figure out how we can get a little bit more help there. But yes, you're right. Dan Morgan does not have to force his hand, which is what you want going into the draft.
Can I be bold here and say, dare I say, that maybe they could even go defensively in the draft? Maybe not with the first 2 picks in the second round, but later?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You made the point great. You trade away Brian Burns, you're going to have to replenish that pass rush. You're going to have to replenish that defensive talent. And so this isn't a team that doesn't have holes on the defensive side of the ball. The priority was just Bryce Young and making sure he's good. And I think they spent a lot of money. In fact, over $200 million in free agency they've spent essentially to keep Bryce Young upright and to give him weapons. And so that means in the draft you have flexibility. So yeah, I could definitely see them targeting a pass rusher, a linebacker in free agency, maybe even a corner. They released Von Bell. They're going to need another safety in that room as well. So there's a lot of needs. Let's not sugarcoat it. This Panthers team is not, 1 or 2 players away. It's still a rebuild. But I think they set themselves up with a few of their additions in free agency.
100% a rebuild, but we are seeing the mark that Dan Morgan and Dave Canales are leaving thus far. NFL Network's Cam Wolfe, he covers the Panthers among many other teams in the league. Cam, thanks for the time, brother.
Appreciate you.
I'll tell you what, he's got a point, Cam, there in the sense that this team is being built, but they're still going to take a lot more time. At first I was like, what are the Panthers doing the first day or 2 of free agency? Then the Johnson trade came through. Then some moves started falling, and I'm like, okay, Dan Morgan is setting himself up to see what kind of a building he wants, and it's clearly offense first, defense next.
Well, what I take from it is that they're doing the smart thing. The prudent thing is, building from the inside out, literally.
Yeah.
On the offensive line, you're building from the inside out. I still question the center position with Bozeman gone. I think they're going to move Austin Corbett to center now. Kind of questionable on that. There are some good centers in the draft still. You could still be looking at that too as well in the draft. And even on the defensive line, you sign the defensive tackle inside out before you even get the pass rusher. We're going to solidify this inside more with Shy Tuttle. You still got Derek Burns there, but that pass rush they got to do something else, and they're going to do something else. But Cam was completely right. The onus now is just to make sure that Bryce Young stays upright, give him some more weapons, make sure that he has the best advantage next year to be able to improve and show that he can play better football next year. They're going to put it to where, hey, it's all on you, Bryce.
Right.
We've done everything we can do from a front office standpoint. Canales, Young, it's on you guys. Let's go.
Now, I've mentioned this to you before. I always say a tight end, a running back, a slot receiver is a safety blanket for a quarterback. Do you think in this Canales offensive scheme that we're about to see, we saw it in Seattle and Tampa, and we're about to see, they finally start using a swing back a little more, or maybe they develop a tight end or somebody that's on the roster now?
They've got to get him some kind of security blanket. All good quarterbacks have those, and he doesn't have one currently. And they're going to find that person for him. It's going to develop. Who that is, I have no idea. But they're not done. There's still a lot of good free agents out there. You still got the draft, so they're going to find that security blanket for him because he desperately needs one, especially with his size and his stature.
Right.
He has to be able to have an outlet to where he can definitely go with that ball. 1, 2, 3, it ain't there. I know he's there.
If they send the house, he's got to drop it somewhere. Quickly,
yes.
Give me 3 yards and then some space, and let's see what you can do.
Yes, they'll find that.
Something. No, at least they're cooking now. Finally.
But
maybe microwave dishes, but they're cooking something.
let's talk real. I mean, let's put a bow on Brian Burns because this is probably the last time we're going to talk about it because he's moving on. Brian Burns bet on himself.
Were you surprised that he got the money, though? I was.
I wasn't. Somebody was going to pay him that money.
Really?
We were too close to the situation. We weren't going to give it to him. We weren't going to give him $30 million. Somebody, he's a good pass rusher in this league. As long as the Giants get somebody on the other side of him, they're going to see the benefits of Brian Burns. Now, with DJ Wonnum coming in and everybody saying, well, this is a win for the Panthers because Burns had 8 sacks last year and Wonnum had 8 sacks last year. Wonnum is not Brian Burns. Brian Burns is a better pass rusher than Wonnum. Brian Burns last year bet on himself and maybe didn't put as much effort into the season as he wanted to because he had to protect himself. He had to protect himself from injury. Get injured, you don't get your $30 million a year because you got hurt. So he pulled it back a little bit, and he kind of admitted even much during the season, after the season. Maybe I didn't give my all, but the contract was on my mind.
Well, not only that, but let's be honest here, and this point has been made several times. The Panthers were consistently trailing. You're not going to be rushing a quarterback to try to he finished with 8 sacks. You're not going to be rushing a quarterback to try to finish with 11, 12, 13 sacks if they're just running the clock out.
In the fourth quarter.
In the fourth quarter because they're up by 20 points. They're up by 10 points.
They never had a lead in the fourth quarter at all. The Panthers played a season where they did not lead in the fourth quarter at all. Their 2 wins, they came on a last-second field goal. That's the first time since the 1940s that an NFL team never played with the lead in the fourth quarter. No, you're not going to be able to rush the passer because the team's just like, we just need to run this clock out.
That statement alone counts for like 3 sacks. You know what I'm saying? Because you're never going to pass rush when a team's trying to come back and sack him. You're never going to be in that situation because they're running the clock out, they're running the ball out, and you just, to your point, they're going to be saving himself for his contract because he wants to get paid later on, which he did in New York.
So, for those who think that, this is a win-win for the Panthers, you didn't pay Brian Burns that money and Wonnum comes in with his 8 sacks and everything it's going to pick up right where it left off. No, they still have to get another probably 2 pass rushers to get this thing really going to where they need to go, and they'll get it done.
I can't mention it. How great would it be, in my opinion, Jadeveon Clowney, a Chase Young, who I think were in their prime, and the injury bug started, hanging around. But if Jadeveon Clowney comes home, or if Chase Young, who was a great player, had the knee injury, went to San Francisco and started being used as a pass rushing specialist on third down, now that, with the recent acquisition, now we're adding things up to maybe get something there.
I love Jadeveon Clowney. He's from this area, played South Point Rock Hill. Watched him growing up, man among boys.
Yeah.
I don't want Jadeveon Clowney right
What?
now. Last year with Baltimore, he had a great season, but look what defense he was on.
Fair.
And the guys
Fair
that
point.
were around him. You've lost your top five. You lost top five of your guys out the defense already, from releasing to trades to all of that. It's not going to be the same defense. And I just don't know if Clowney is going to come here and play the way he did with Baltimore last year that he would here. Before the Baltimore, for a few years there, it was just like.
Right, he's done. Yeah, well, it was
So,
just the first year thing.
I would more so go Chase Young before I would go Jadeveon Clowney. My preference.
Listen, I'll take either.
But exactly, they need somebody. They need to have somebody that can rush the pass. I don't know. Do you bring Marquise Haynes back? I mean, like they've got to get more pass rushing here. They know Marquise. He's been here for a few years. Been injured a lot. Do you go back down that road, or do you just say, forget it, we're just going to move on from him? We're going to bring in some new talent and new blood and see what happens. So there's a lot of ways to go with it.
On that note, I'm not going to say too much on this because mine's just going to be excitement being from the D.C. market and a D.C. guy. But Frankie's gone now, and he's a Washington Commander. That's a big hole.
That is a huge loss. And you're seeing a lot of guys that Ivero worked with before coming back here. And sometimes, but they know what to expect in the system, and that's good. They're not going to have to be able to be. It's not going to take them long to get acclimated to the system. So you sign a linebacker and you sign an alignment. Ivero knows what they can do. He's going to put them in the best position to succeed. And I think that's us not knowing them. We're kind of questionable. Ivero's not going to be questionable about it.
Right.
He knows exactly what they can do and where they need to be successful. It might not be as great. It might not be a top 5 defense next year. Maybe it's a top 10, top 15 defense.
Dude, I'll take top 10.
It's still
I will
a
take
great
that.
defense. So
Absolutely.
I think they'll be fine defensively.
Jaw-dropping moves in NFL free agency, jaw-dropping plays in the ACC tournament. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, we saw it. We saw it, and we knew it was coming. We'll talk all things ACC basketball on the other side of the break.
Oh, when you hear that music, you know what time it is.
It's finally time to do some dancing.
March Madness begins in 6 days, right here on WBTV.
It's tourney time. Join the fun with WBTV's Hoops 3 contest. Go to WBTV.com and fill out your brackets. Grand prize winner scores a $1,000 voucher from Man Travels, sponsored by Novant Health, your local Kia dealers, and NC Medicaid for more people.
It's a beautiful day out, Dad. Let's go.
There's another sunny day in the forecast.
Dad, do you want to go for a walk?
High temperature right around. Saturday is a first alert weather day. Several rounds of showers and thunderstorms coming up from the south.
Welcome back. Let's talk a little college basketball tournament action, and things are heating up all over the country. In the SEC, South Carolina beat Arkansas in the quarterfinals yesterday and will take on Auburn today in a couple of hours. And in the ACC, a team's bubble may have burst yesterday.
Oh, you can say that again. Yes, you can. Wake Forest, they really needed to not only win, but then have a deep run in the ACC tournament to punch their ticket into the big dance. But they fell flat to Pitt 81-69, and it looks like they may be done. North Carolina, though, they stomped all over Florida State 92-67. R.J. Davis leading the way with 18 points, and Armando Bacot finishing with yet again another double-double of 14 and 10. Virginia took care of BC 66-60, offense optional in that one. And well,
wait, sorry about that. That was 66-60 in overtime. It took them overtime to get to 66 points. Continue.
offense optional, exactly.
Overtime.
At least the defense played something.
Oh my God.
Oh, and sound the bell because big trees, they do fall hard. Duke, they were stunned as they fell to NC State 74-69. The Wolfpack took care of business despite Kyle Filipowski's 28 points, Nate.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Hey, somebody said it was going to be a little close, maybe an upset. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, we really call that. I was always saying a couple shows ago that NC State, somebody was going to make a run.
Yep.
We were just due for a team to make a run and get into that ACC Tournament championship game. It's the first time since 2010 that a double-digit seed has made it to the semifinals, and it's NC State. So I kind of felt like something like this was going to happen. And I fully expect them to win tonight. I fully expect them to beat Virginia tonight. If they continue to score the way they are scoring right now, they're going to beat Virginia. They're going to beat them handily, I think. That championship game, I don't know. But I think Pittsburgh can take out North Carolina as well.
I was just going to say, look, we were talking about there's going to be an upset. It's going to be NC State. It's going to be Wake. It's going to be Pitt. And then, of course, naturally, we're thinking maybe it's going to be NC State. Maybe it's going to be Wake. But the dark horse here may be Pitt, even though they've drawn the top seed in North Carolina, because Pitt has been playing quietly very, very well.
Yeah. And before we go on, let's talk a little Wake Forest, man. I just feel so bad for this team. Everybody's right now has them as one of the first four out.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with that. This team has done it to themselves with after that Duke win and that court storming. This team has not been the same.
Yep.
And they've fallen flat on their face. And they allowed Pitt to get out early yesterday, and they came back, but they just ran out of gas. And it's been the team has just been so inconsistent all season long. And this is a NCAA tournament team. The talent on this team is an NCAA tournament team. And they I cannot understand why they have not been able to win big games, and not even big games. You couldn't even beat Notre Dame. They just you followed up Duke and just lost a lot of games that you should not have lost, and you've put yourself in a position where everybody's going by you now. You're done. Everybody continues to win, and everybody continues to improve their resume. You're finished. It's over. And somebody's gonna a bid stealer. Dayton loses in the A10. That's a bid that's gonna be stolen now, and it's just like they have put themselves. They're not making it. I hate it for them. Sunday, they're going to get in front of that TV, and they're just going to hope and hope and hope. And I would be completely shocked if Wake Forest is on somebody's bracket line.
I would be shocked if they made the tournament, but we mentioned it. We talked about it. There's a lot of teams that play up to the competition and play down to the competition, and that was a common thread, not just with the team as a whole, but some of the role players too. Hunter Silas is one of the best players when he turns it on, but when he turns it off, I mean, he's not there. And I think that's what's going to be evident when we see Wake Forest, unfortunately, not going to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, today up in D.C., Pittsburgh takes on North Carolina, and NC State will take on Virginia. The winners will play in the ACC title game Saturday night at 8:30.
It's going to be fun to see that game. Look, I'm with you, man.
Yeah.
5 wins in 5 days, that's a lot. That's a lot.
They're playing.
But they're playing lights out right now.
They are peaking at the right time, and North Carolina's peaking. North Carolina, we're going to get to the next segment, but North Carolina yesterday against Florida State, if they're going to defend and rebound like that, that's a Final Four team. Period.
Absolutely.
North Carolina's a Final Four team. If they're going to do those two things, the scoring's going to be scoring. But if they defend and rebound forget it.
We can talk about it all day. We can guess who's going to go in, who's going to go out. But at the end of the day, Sunday is key. And you, alongside Cam Gaskins, will be having something very special on Select Saint Sunday at 7, yes?
Yeah, we're going to do a real quick little point out there after the brackets are out. So we're going to give you our initial thoughts on the brackets. But I'm not going to pick, because we're going to do it again on Monday. I'm not going to pick a champion on Sunday, but we're going to give our initial thoughts, and we're going to have some reaction on whether Wake Forest makes it. More than likely, they ain't going to end up on one of them the bracket lines. You ain't going to see Wake Forest on there. But if they do, we'll still talk about it. If they don't, still going to be a lot to talk about, because do they take an NIT bid? I mean, because they're going to be one of the teams that would. That would be just a disappointment. I don't know. You probably do take the bid, But man, that's just
It's a tournament you don't want to be in because you should have been in the bigger party.
Exactly.
Yeah, at the end of the day, look, Selection Sunday, and especially the special edition of the Point After at 7, you alongside Cam Gaskins, a third member of this broadcast
And then we'll
crew.
do it again on Monday.
And then we'll do it again on Monday.
With maybe some championship predictions. Maybe, because I might not be ready to get my champion on Monday.
I'm going to be like 7 brackets deep. By then, I should know. By then, I should know. All right, time now for the best part of the show. Yes, the one that helps you out there, your best bets. That's when we experts, they stack up those units for you. The sure thing. And that's why we're joined by our guest, a co-host of VSiN Primetime by DraftKings, a sports gambling analyst, Jonathan Von Tovel. JVT, thanks for being here on the show. Look, we talked about the ACC Tournament, the big surprises left in that. A lot of books right now have Virginia as a 2.5-point favorite. Where are you leaning in this contest?
Yeah, Virginia stinks on offense. I think I can't really get by, looking at Virginia to win this game by margin. I think it's easy to look at this game under. NC State, I think, is good enough to pull this upset. It's a small upset. They got good guard play. They're healthy now once again. I think from a side standpoint to be NC State, but I really like this game under the total. I think at this point right now, it's hard to trust Virginia to score with some ease. So it's up to 121.5. I think under 122 in some spots as well. That'd be the way to go.
Now looking over on the other side, UNC, a 7.5-point favorite over a sneaky Pitt team like Nate and I were talking. The over-under here, some books have it set at 147.5. Where are you leaning here? More towards spread or more towards points?
I think I'm more towards spread here, but I'd also look at the points. But look, Pitt's playing with some ferocity, as you guys mentioned, and there's something about UNC. Look, they can maybe have an outside shot at a 1 seed, but they're a little fat and happy. They know that they're in. They know they're going to get a top seed. Pitt's got a lot to fight for. An ACC championship would be good for the Pitt Panthers. So I think looking at this, I'd rather back the side of the underdog here. Maybe look a little under. This Pitt team, 10th in terms of average size. I think they're going to be able to match up with the size that North Carolina wants to play with and slow this game down. So the underdog and the under, the way to go, I think, in that one.
Ooh, the underdog and the under. I like that. Look, the NCAA tournament is right around the corner. A lot of people looking at some futures as well. What should people be eyeing to at least, if not cutting down the nets of the entire tournament, but maybe even making the Final Four?
Yeah, I'll give you 2. Iowa State, I love this team. They're very good defensively, one of the top teams in the country in forcing turnovers, getting out and running. Not the best offense in the world, but I love the way they played in that backcourt defensively. Big fan of those guys. So the Iowa State Cyclones, getting them to the Final Four. And if you want a long shot, New Mexico is finally starting to put things together, and I bet them to make the Final Four as well. When you get good guard play, and they got 2 of them, actually 2.5 actually, and the Lobos are starting to find their groove again, getting a big win yesterday over Boise State, now into the Mountain West semis. I think those are 2 teams to look out for. Good guard play, good defensive guard play for one of them, and the ability to make a run.
Ooh, New Mexico. That would be something that would bust a lot of brackets. Look, sports gambling is officially legal in the state of North Carolina, helping us always get set for Game Time. Sports gambling expert and co-host of VSiN Primetime by DraftKings, JVT. Thanks for the insight, brother.
You got it. Thank you.
I'll tell you what, Nate, man. Now that sports gambling has been going and it's been kicking here in North Carolina, you see now these teams and the most exciting time, which is NCAA college basketball, ACC tournament, obviously, but the big dance is when people are going to have some fun with that.
Let me get to one more thing before we get to my first final point here. Pittsburgh, they probably need a win today. I was looking at Jill Lenardi's stuff.
Yeah.
Their strength of schedule was 343. That would be the worst. If they were to get a bid to the tournament, that would be the worst non-conference schedule for anybody who got off the bubble and got into the tournament. They probably need to win tonight against North Carolina, which is going to make them even more of a dangerous team because their back's against the wall. So watch out for that tonight in the Pitt, North Carolina game. Now my first point here, the AAC tournament for Charlotte starts tonight. They got the double bye. They're in the quarterfinals tonight. I wouldn't say they caught a break, but they play Temple tonight. Temple upset SMU last night to get to this point. So Charlotte beat Temple in the regular season, but don't relax now because Temple just beat SMU, which was a good team. so they can do it to you tonight. So Temple and Charlotte tonight at 9 in the AAC tournament. My second point is NCHSAA state championships are happening. There's one happening actually right now that involves one of our local teams. In the men's 1A championship game, Corvian, which is in our area, is taking on Wilson. Later today, in the 3A women's final, it's going to be West Rowan versus Sanford. That's at 3:30. And then tonight, Central Cabarrus, in their 65-game winning streak right now. Yes, 65. They're looking for another state championship. They're taking on Fayetteville 71st at 8:30. Tomorrow we got more state championships. We got 3 more. Roseville versus Catholic in the 4A women. 2A women is North Pick versus Eastburg. And 4A men tomorrow night, New Hanover versus North Meck. And Isaiah Evans, who is a Duke commit for North Meck, his last game is for a state championship. We wish all our local teams the best of luck. Bring back the hardware from Winston-Salem. But it's been a great event up there in Winston-Salem. They had all the regionals up at Winston-Salem. They had all the state championship at Winston-Salem. So it's been a full week for the NCHSAA. And from everything I've been hearing, it's been an outstanding tournament so far. And now it's time to crown champion.
Hey, these are our local kids, man, that are the future of basketball, not only in the NCAA, but maybe they get lucky to develop their game and we see them.
Isaiah Evans could possibly be that guy that goes to the pros.
Exactly.
He is putting on the show right now.
Hey, look, if we're talking about local kids, I mentioned I'm a DC guy, so I'm a Commanders fan. And we're talking about local kids. I got to talk about quarterback Sam Howell, who's from Charlotte. Best of luck to Sam Howell. He was traded from Washington to Seattle, traded for fourth round pick, 6th round pick, and Sam Howell for a 3rd round and 5th round pick from Seattle. Washington clearly rebuilding things. But look, as a Washington fan, I loved seeing Sam Howell. I thought he was running for his life half of the time, which is why the interceptions and why he led the league in interceptions. But I do think he has talent. I do think he's going to be able to press the reset button and kind of learn behind Geno Smith. And I wish him the best of luck because I think that Tar Heel name, that Charlotte name, Sam Howell, we will be hearing it. He's either a low side starting quarterback in the NFL or the best backup quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's going to do well. I think this is a good move for him to maybe get further away from home and just kind of just isolate himself from everybody else. Shout out Sun Valley High School. You know, I've watched plenty of games with Sam over the years, even back in the high school days. They're saying he's not going to give Geno Smith any competition.
I don't know, man.
If he goes out there and he starts balling, Geno might be like,
let's not
who's
forget,
over my shoulder?
halfway through the season, people were like, who is this Sam Howell kid? Until defenses were like, oh, just rush the line because they have nobody to block, and then he'll throw picks, which is what ended up happening. But Sam could sling the rock.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited for him.
I think this is a good spot. It's a good landing spot. Geno is, they say he's the starter, but he could supplant him. So
I'm with you.
It's a good spot for him to be in.
I'm with you. My final thought on this one, we mentioned it again, and I'm sorry. I just got to say
why are you piling on the Blue Devil Nation?
Bye, Duke. How are you going to lose to NC State like that? Look, Filipowski, 28 points, but DJ Burns was punching him. He was punching him in the paint. He really played well. I don't want to take any credit away from NC State because they deserve to win, but Duke has just been miserable, in my opinion, when it comes to the later end of the season. When we're filling out brackets on Sunday, they might be one of my first ones and maybe the first couple of rounds to go kick rocks with open-toe shoes.
I just don't know. I don't know if it's the injuries and things of that nature. This team is just not. It's just not connecting right now. This is Duke's first loss to a double-digit team in the ACC Tournament since 2007.
Terrible.
2007. This team is just not. It's Kyle Filipowski. It's Jeremy Roach. Is Jarrett McCain. What are we doing after that? I mean, like the bench is just non-existent because all of their bench production has to start now. Right. So I think we're starting to see a lot of just these injuries just killing this team. So when Shire has to go to that second unit, what do you really have?
Right.
So I just think the injuries are starting to catch up with this team right now. Even when Kyle Filipowski has a 28-point game,
doesn't matter.
They still have nothing because there's nothing behind him consistently driving and pushing this thing along. So Duke might be in some big trouble. But then again, don't count out Duke because they get some of that magic sometimes, and just the moment that you don't think it's going to be, voila, here they go in the Sweet 16, Elite 8, and be like, where did this team come from? Oh, they were expected to do this all year. Like, no, right now, I'm not expecting them to make a run to the Elite 8. But if they do, it'll be a complete shock to me.
I am not trusting on Duke right now. They have not played well. Look, lots of ACC tournament basketball to talk about. NCAA gets started next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. Special edition of The Point After with you, Nate, and Cam Gaskins. What time?
Sunday, 7 o'clock. Right after the brackets are done, we'll be here to give a quick synopsis of the brackets.
Perfect, and then I'll join you guys on Monday. Remember, you can watch The Point After Mondays and Fridays, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Apple TV, Fire TV, Roku, and the WBTV News app. See ya!